This is the Queen of Politics edition of The Aaron Cruz Show, the political weekly wrap-up that packs a punch with your host, Aaron Cruz.
Good evening and welcome to The Aaron Cruz Show, coming to you from San Diego, California. This is the Queen of Politics. Thank you for joining me. I am Aaron Cruz. Tonight's topic is more, and more. What is really going on in D.C.? We are going to get to that and more. So, the Queen of Politics, we run on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We also have Political Core, which is on Tuesday nights, bloop, bloop, at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we usually get a little bit deeper than the Queen of Politics. We like to have a little bit more fun on Thursday nights as we usher in the weekend. Yes, we do. So we're going to get into a few things tonight on more, and more, as it seems that there are more and more accusations against Moore of Alabama, who is running for election for a Senate seat. Wow. I mean, what are we going to do? This guy is just being hammered, right? If you haven't seen Moore, Judge Moore has had a long-standing career in very much in the spotlight, especially where he lives in Alabama, and now he's running for a seat in Congress. And as it stands with that seat in Congress, I'm just not sure Congress wants to have him, and the question is, why? Why don't they want this guy? Well, I think, if you ask me, he's far too conservative in many ways. And it's, small town Alabama, he's done well for himself. And I'm not going to say I back him or I don't back him. I'm not from Alabama, and I don't get that vote. But what I can tell you is that it seems to me, from what the polls look like in Alabama, that Alabamans are not very pleased that big swamp D.C., no matter what side you call it, are after their guy and after their election. Now, we are, 1 month out from their election down there in Alabama, and are short of it. And it's a special election. Some people are calling for that election to be called off and postponed until they can find a better candidate. Oh my gosh. Do you see what this is, folks? We have Menendez, who's basically a sitting congressperson who's been accused of misconduct on very, very substantial levels. And he's been put to trial. And there are some issues there. Right now, we have with Moore 8 accusers and counting of sexual misconduct, accusations, let's just say accusations of sexual misconduct, 40 years ago, none of which who've come forth to press charges against the man. And so what we see here are two very different situations. And then if the frying pan couldn't get any hotter, okay, then we have our dear, and I'm going to pull this up, Al Franken. Yes, we have Senator Al Franken, who is accused and admittedly assaulted, and I'm going to say it another time, admittedly assaulted a woman while she was traveling with the senator and our troops, if you want to call it that, USO tour, okay? And she was going to entertain, and I am disgusted. He, quote, as she says it, Leanne Tweeden, she says, quote, he put his hands on the back of my head, mashed his lips against mine, and aggressively stuck his tongue in my mouth. Okay? And on top of that, we have a picture of Al Franken, and he is pretending to grab her boobs. Okay? And she is asleep. So, Al Franken has admitted what he's done. He's now ushered in an apology. I'm just going to tell you, folks, that D.C., these are supposed to be senators, congressmen, or judges, All of these people are supposed to be those which have good moral judgment, good moral standing. They are deciding the fate of our nation, and they have the fate of our nation in their hands, and we have to be very careful who we let in. Now, in the case of Judge Moore, okay, this is something altogether different. This beast of a story has, the Twitter sphere on fire. The social media is just ablaze. And then now, okay, I have to say this, I just got an email, and it was an update, and it was Ivanka Trump, and I'm just, process is there for a reason, and it's queen of politics, and I don't want to get too deep, but really, this is deep stuff, guys. Politics, process, all this matters. You just throw it out the window, and then what do you have? You have a nation with no laws, okay? You have a nation of no laws, no boundaries, and anything goes. That's just not okay. And so I have to say, Judge Moore has no charges filed against him. And so far as I see, while we don't necessarily have too many reasons to doubt every single accuser except for the election that's impending, which is an impending disaster. I mean, it's just coming in quick, and you just think, oh gosh, what's going to happen here? That gives me reason to doubt the allegations, because where have these women been for 40 years? Now, there are plenty of people who have had, are victims of different forms of violence or assault, sexual assault, rape, and other things who, of course, never maybe ever mention it in their lifetimes to anyone. And they should never have to live that alone. And they should never be ashamed of what they went through. If being a victim, they are actually a survivor. If they made it through and they're continuing on with their life and they're striving to be a better person and live their life in a way that's wholesome and have their family or their loved ones and their friends around them, and they're accomplishing things. I mean, that's just wonderful. They're a survivor. They're a fighter. They've made it. They've done it. They've overcome the struggles that they've been through. But when we have a man who's like Judge Moore coming up against an election, and we have accusers coming out of the wings to regularly accuse a man, and then we have congresspersons in Congress ready to jump on that bandwagon and ask him to step aside and pull out of the election. We're talking about a judge here. He makes rulings day in and day out. He's made rulings in the past. What you're saying is you're acknowledging the fact that this man has done something wrong, when in fact it has not been proven that he is in the wrong. He has not admitted guilt. He's actually denied the allegations, stood up against them, and said these are absolutely accurate, absolutely false. And the accusers are just that, accusing me. What's the deal? What's the deal here in D.C.? I mean, come on. What is it? Well, it remains to be seen what comes of this. If the accusers come forward and if Moore is put on trial and he's found guilty of any charges or he assumes guilt of some form and he is guilty, then he should, face the consequences for his actions. They were wrong. He was wrong to do that, but that's if that happens. Until then, these women are nothing more than accusers. And in fact, as we've stayed up so many nights, several of us patriots, many of us patriots, but several of us ladies and some gentlemen are just digging through the internet, trying to find information that the press is not covering, and to support any form of what these women are actually coming to the table with. And really, quite frankly, there is little to support some of the accusers' stories. And in fact, there may be ways to prove that some of the evidence that they're pulling forward is actually could come up against scrutiny. And even if some of the evidence, for example, Nelson's yearbook were to come up against scrutiny and the ink were to be tested, and they were to find that the ink were 40 years old, and and other things that fingerprints or DNA or whatever else these people can find off of this sort of yearbook, the writing analysis and other things. Even if that were to be found to be his signature, is 40 years ago. I'm sure he signed many people's yearbooks. His signature, he's autographed many things over the years. And even if he hasn't, even if he signed it for her and he was being kind because he was being nice, that does not prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he did anything that might be considered improper. And so when we and my fellow patriots have been looking at all of this, we've just been trying to find truth. It doesn't matter what side you're on. It doesn't matter if you are an R or a D. It doesn't matter if you're an independent. It doesn't matter if you're Green Party. It doesn't matter what party you're affiliated with. You are an American citizen and you desire to have the truth. You want to know you want the Liberty Teeth, the media, to be providing data and information and not digging up people who might have something to say to try to sway a vote. And so this is the concern of many patriots across the nation with this Alabama situation. And I don't want to demean Judge Moore. He's a long-standing judge who wants to run for Senate. And I don't want to demean any victim who comes forward and with accusations or claims of being ill-treated or sexually abused or assaulted. Those persons should seek full justice for the wrongdoing that was done against them. Sure, they should. That's, if they're coming forward, that's what they're looking for, maybe. Because what we're seeing, I don't want to downplay the people who are actually victims here, who've actually faced those sorts of situations. The victims, purported victims, who are quite possibly claiming false wrongdoing by innocent parties, those persons, if they are found to be completely and utterly lying or giving mistruths or misinformation or bad information or inaccurate information, which wrongly accuses somebody who's innocent and causes an election to be swayed, votes to be swayed in one way or the other. They are interfering with an election process, okay, and cycle. And they are actually, in fact, if some of these people came forward and they are in an attempt to undermine the elections, causing doubt, actually encouraging by suggestion that other Senate members expel this person if they are actually voted in. I mean, there are a lot of ramifications that could happen and come forth if these individuals are in fact lying. And these people, if they are lying and they are interrupting an election or they are agitating and interfering in an election knowingly, false allegations, accusations, they should be held to the full standard and whatnot of the law, okay? So what my problem here is again, I don't want to take away from those people who are victims. I am a survivor myself, and I have put a person behind bars, and I was 14. And so I've sat on the stand. I've been there. I've done the hard thing. Someone was with me. They didn't go on the stand. They didn't sit there. They elected because their parent didn't want them to not go and testify. And the person who I testified against did not get adequate time. They should have served because there was not a witness that would testify against him and also corroborate my story, which is so difficult. I mean, this person had so much against him otherwise. He had drugs on him. He had other paraphernalia and other things in his car, and he was also a repeat offender. Okay, predators. Predators are predators. They don't back down and they don't back down, and they don't back down, which is what one of the accusers has said of Moore. So I will be the first to admit that I am wrong if, in fact, Judge Moore is found to be guilty. I'll be the first to admit he should not be in a Senate seat. Trust me, that's the case. However, we see people coming forward like Ivanka Trump, who's made a statement, and she says there's a special place in hell for people who prey on children. I have yet to see a valid explanation, and I have no reason to doubt the victims' accounts. That's on the Roy Moore accusations. She has no doubt, no reason to doubt the victims. I have a lot of reasons to doubt the victims, several of them. And I won't step away from the fact that I believe that this not this latest woman, but Nelson, absolutely 100% needs to be put on the stand under oath, recorded in front of Congress. And certainly if she's going to charge that this man has done something wrong to her, she needs to stand behind her word, and she needs to go under oath. She needs to testify against him in some form. I mean, I really would like to see Files charged for something against him if in fact these are true allegations. Of course, there are statute of limitations for some things, and other things there aren't. So some of these women's accusations actually are really, some of them say that their age was such that the numbers don't add up. I mean, there are holes in some of these stories, and these women, these accusers, the people who stand behind them, and the people who are giving them a catalyst that are pushing them forward and pushing them up into the media who is doing no fact-checking really whatsoever, no homework really whatsoever, okay? They need to be held responsible if they are, in fact, affecting an election. And I know I just repeated that. But people like Ivanka Trump, who say that she has no reason to doubt the victims' accounts, by what standing? I mean, does she know all of the information? Has she really looked at this? And I really, quite frankly, this is a kangaroo court. That is a kangaroo court. It's about process, folks. We can sit here and we can mull about on the social media all day long. But when it comes down to it, until the victim or the wronged come forward and press charges, or come forward with allegations and then move forward, charges are filed, and somebody stands up and is basically judged by his peers and is found guilty or not guilty, he is innocent until proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. There's a lot of doubt here. There's a lot of doubt here. And one of them comes because it's just 1 month before the election in Alabama. And if we want to get down to what's really going in D.C., let's go on to what's really going on in D.C. We have allegations against Herman Cain. We have allegations against many different individuals in D.C. during election cycles, which have swayed opinion and encouraged conversations, which should never have happened in that context. Where have those conversations been? Where were they a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 weeks before the election? Nowhere. Where are they now 10 weeks, 10 months after the election? Guess what? Nowhere. Why? Because as it stands, these accusations are nothing more than to undermine our election process, undermine the voting process. Okay? This is a mind war that's going on here, and what we have are people who are literally manipulating the vote via public opinion and a kangaroo court. And it's not right. And it needs to stop. Okay? And so we look, and now, this Leanne Tweeden, okay, she spoke with CNN's Jake Tapper, okay, about Al Franken and kissing her without her consent in 2008. You know, this is the thing, folks. Does it take us reminding people what happened in 2008 with another person, another senator? I mean, nobody wanted to point it out really at the time. It didn't really get air, but now this is coming ahead. And I would say that how in the world is Al Franken a sitting senator? How can Senator Mitch McConnell, say to Al Moore, Judge Moore, that is hilarious, Al Moore. How can Mitch McConnell say to Judge Moore to step aside, yet he works in the Senate with Al Franken? Yeah. So I'm not saying that Al Franken should just step aside, but if these allegations are true and he admittedly did do what he said he did, he said he is guilty of it, that there should be an equal standing and position on the Senate. If the Senate is so strong against these sorts of sexual and sexually explicit and violent, I would call it violent. He stuck his mouth in her tongue without asking. This is the Leanne Tweeden and Al Franken. Okay, if the Senate with the misconduct, and I don't even call that misconduct, that's sexual assault, really, and harassment. If they're that adamant about Moore, Judge Moore, who's not even in the Senate yet, and if he gets a Senate seat, they are going to unseat him. They're threatening him that they will unseat him, okay? If they're that adamant about him not being in the Senate, where is the call for these other individuals with quote-unquote misconduct to step down? And now many people have said online, okay, well, this really isn't about that so much, because what we're talking about is children. Judge Moore, these were kids, underage kids. Look, there's no evidence that these people who are now, it's 40 years later, okay, that this happened. If you can prove that it happened, if there's evidence and he's found guilty, okay, go for it. But otherwise, there is no evidence. So every viewpoint that they're coming from to try to excuse themselves or excuse what they're saying or push what they're saying is right or correct, it's just off base. Process matters. Okay, process matters, and we have to stand behind the rule of law. Now, in the case of like Menendez, he's actually, some may say that he may get off, and then he may, that just may be the end of that, and he may just go on working in the Senate. Look, if he isn't found not guilty, if he is, what are you going to do? The Senate will have to deal with those sorts of situations. And that's where you would hope that this sort of moral standing that Mitch McConnell is trying to pull off by what he's doing, which it's just, I think it's unfounded, that's when that sort of position takes place, okay? If the justice system is such where it didn't do its job, or there is a mistrial and, they're trying to, okay, I see the Senate saying, look, there's a lot of shady around this, and we just can't have that in the Senate. And if the Senate agrees and the process is followed and they're unseated, okay, then so be it. But right now, with I want to say Al Moore, that is hilarious. With Judge Moore, we can't allow for the process to be ignored. We can't allow for the process to be ignored, and we have to, as a nation, come together and unify and back the process which is in place to ensure that all citizens are given equal privilege and right to a fair trial. Okay, they're innocent until proven guilty. All right, we have to stand behind our citizens. If we allow the Senate to do what it's wanting to do in Alabama, they will continue. DC, the issue here is that DC wants to use whatever they can, in whatever way they can, the information they have to sway voters towards the person of choice that they want. And it doesn't matter the party, but that's what they're doing, and they're using the media to do it. And the media has to be held to a higher standard because they have a responsibility to the citizenry to report accurate information, facts, not just jump on the next bandwagon. Because I think as it stands, we're kind of now already with Judge Moore, we're kind of forgetting the issue of last week, aren't we? Or the issue of the week before, aren't we? We're now on from the issue the week before that, aren't we? We have an attention span of about 3 days. That's about it. And the media, it's not about the next click, guys. It's just not. It's about the future of the American way of life, the future of the United States and the families that live within it, and we have to have a media that is held to a higher standard. Okay, so on the Queen of Politics, that's about it, guys. I think that the chunk of this that's what the download is: swaying elections via kangaroo court using the media. That's it. And we can't allow for Congress to manipulate. We can't allow for other DC hacks to manipulate. We can't allow for the media to manipulate our elections any longer. No. We have to stand up. We have to rise up. We have to demand that process be respected and that our voice be heard in terms of the vote, a proper vote. You don't need riots to be considering that this is an interruption of our voting process. No, it doesn't have to be a riot. It doesn't have to be rioting in the streets. It could be sexual allegations that are brought up against to try to get somebody to not run for office. Pressure. 8 of them. One guy. 8 accusers. Okay. So that's it. DC. DC is filled with a bunch of people who will use anything they can to get the outcome that they want. Anything. And that needs to stop. And one thing I will have to say is I am very proud of the House. Okay, the House passed a tax reform bill, and the aspects of the bill, not all of them are 100% what we want. Hopefully it'll go to the Senate. The Senate can take a look. Hopefully they'll duplicate, and they're supposed to use the reconciliation process, and we may have a tax plan by Thanksgiving. And again, don't lose your heads, folks. Don't lose your heads. It's not the end of the world if this tax plan doesn't have 100% what we want. If it's not performing accurately, okay? If it's not performing the way it should. If it turns out that 3 months in, it's actually going to inflate certain aspects of our economy or problematic, we can put pressure on our representatives and our congressmen to make revisions. And I think that's the thing, the kicker, okay? We have to remember that we don't want to necessarily pass bad policy. What we want is the current policy to be revised and and made to the standard, which we will have better competition, costs will ease, and other things. Yes, but in the case of tax reform, we do need adjustments, and in this case, many are saying that it's a pretty good, solid policy. So if we can work with something, get the Senate to work with it, and then change it later, that would be fabulous. And I'm hoping right now we have Trump in office, and he can go ahead and he can push for that. I don't think he'll have any qualms with saying, look, what you pushed was, not doing everything it needs to. We need to adjust. That's what people do in business. That's not what Congress has been doing. They just drag their butts along and do whatever they want to get what they want and make sure they get in the next election cycle and get that seat. Get another paycheck for 2 to 4 years, yeah? Or should we say 24 years for many of them, or 40 years for some of them. So I'm hoping we have Trump in office, and he's not going to be shy about saying, hey, you need to readjust this. And if we, the people, understand that this is a possibility, that these are things that can be done, and we stand behind it and we keep up the pressure on the policies and initiatives that we want, I believe we can be very successful if we are a unified front. Okay, and in order to do that and accomplish that, we have to be able to communicate. And this is an area which I think we really can improve on. It's not about R or D, it's about the US of A. And in order to accomplish what we need to in the US of A, we have to get on the same page and start having the conversations. Yes? And so that's where I'm going to lead you right into my book. I have a book coming out. It's going to be out on December 15th. I'm really super excited about it. It's called Revolution America. And it's in my mind, it's fabulous. It's a short read. I think many people can get a lot out of it. It's, I believe, nothing that you've read before. It is a communication book. It deals with thought. It deals with interactions. It deals with politics interaction and women. It's written to help empower women as well. And I touch on various aspects of modern conservatism. Okay, and what is conservatism? What is traditionalism? What is liberalism? What is feminism? Okay, I talk about all these things. So I think it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a read that you're going to want to grab. You're going to want to give it out for Christmas gifts to people you know. Hey, if you have a liberal that you just go, oh God, they need a lot of help, get it for them. They may not like it, but they may give it away. They may put it in a bookstore and somebody else may be blessed with it. Yes, amen? And it's also faith-based. Okay, it's not just all God. But it's, I talk about faith, and I talk about our belief systems, and I talk about the nation and what we're going through right now and what's needed. And I give some tools in there to help guide you. So make sure you look for it, ErinCruz.com. There are some links that are going to be there for pre-purchase December 1st. And on some of the websites, you can already sign up to be emailed when it does pre-release or pre-sale. And then the release is December 15th. So make sure you look for that. We're also looking at having a signing Facebook signing event, if you will. And I will be signing books and autographing them and sending them out to y'all. Yeah? I think it's going to be fun. I think it's a unification thing. And I know that this book will give people some tools to help them in their everyday lives, as well as navigating politics and those sorts of conversations and interactions. So thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Queen of Politics. Yes. I'm really looking forward to doing so much more and getting the word out there on what really needs to happen, And that's what I try to do here on the Queen of Politics and on Political Core, right? Is get down to the core of the issue and have a little fun with politics, because the humor around some of this stuff, I don't know about you, but if you're on social media, sometimes the humor out there on late night politics is just hilarious. So we do talk about some of those things sometimes, but these last few weeks, the conversations have been pretty deep subjects, and I don't like to try to make light of them. There's nothing joking about people who are one, being accused of sexual assault, and two, people who could very well be victims. We don't know. We don't know what side of the coin is what. So we just have to trust that the justice system will serve, and we need to hold those accountable in the media and in other offices to follow process. Yes? So I want to give you your number to Congress, like I always give, 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. You can go to house.gov or senate.gov to get a hold of your representatives or find out current policies and initiatives moving forward, or to better understand process. You can also look up other resources on my website. I have them there at erincruz.com. That's ERINCRUZ.com. Or you can send emails and inquiries to info@erincruz.com. Be sure to like us on social media. You know, one of the important things is that we connect to one another, that we don't just retweet or we don't just like and share, that we interact. We build a network, okay, of patriots. And I know we've been doing that for many years, but we all get so busy. We have to take the time. So please connect with us on social media. I try to answer every single email and inquiry and post and response that I can, even the nasty ones. I have had some pretty nice hate letters over the years, but that's okay. You know, it's about communicating. It's not always pretty, but it is about communicating. All right, guys, thank you so much again for joining me. Erin Cruz, Queen of Politics. Please join me again this next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for Political Core. Okay. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a very blessed evening. God bless you, and God bless America.